Welcome to English Stories with Dr. K.
Time to Unplug by Chris Wilder. In the midst of the ongoing digital revolution, Americans are changing the way they read. Increasingly, digital devices, screens, large and small, are replacing the printed pages people used to read. A 2016 study revealed that most Americans spend about 10 hours a day looking at some kind of screen, mostly television, and barely 20 minutes reading any kind of non-electronic reading material, such as books, magazines, or newspapers. Nearly 30% of all Americans say they never read printed books at all. And the vast majority of people say that they get their news from a screen, not a printed page. Most people agree that too much time spent browsing social media or playing video games or watching endless television is not exactly beneficial. But what about using our screens for reading? Is there really anything negative about that? Certainly, there are obvious advantages that electronic reading has over printed reading matter. Most obviously, using a smartphone, computer, or tablet is far more convenient than hauling around a mountain of books, newspapers, or magazines. In fact, a device that weighs less than a single book can carry thousands of titles. A child can hold whole libraries in one hand. Furthermore, digital readings helps the environment. Nearly 125 million trees are cut down every year to provide paper for printed reading materials. And pro-screen advocates point out that it is far cheaper for students to download textbooks than to buy them. A recent study revealed that college students can save up to $500 a year by using digital materials instead of printed ones. Additionally, it is infinitely easier to update or correct digital material than it is to reprint books. However, there are downsides to choosing screens over print for reading. Because these downsides are subtle and often unrecognizable to the reader, they may not be perceived as negatives at first. For example, research shows that backlit screens can make it more difficult for us to comprehend what we're reading. Studies have found that constantly reading from a bright backlit screen as opposed to a page requires more mental work, leaving us less brain power for comprehension. We also tend to have less of an emotional response to the words and fail to retain information as well. Researchers are not sure why, but some believe the comprehension problems may be the result of our minds being trained to read pages, not screens. If so, millions of us are in the middle of a learning curve that we may never outgrow. Another disadvantage of reading from screens is that screens are not, books. This may seem like an obvious and an unimportant point, but the fact is that the cover, print, weight, feel, and even the smell of a book can make reading more appealing. These sensory features are pleasurable to readers and likely to improve their reading experience. An iPad or an iPhone will always look like an iPad or a phone. But a 500-page mystery novel with a creepy cover looks nothing like a slim volume of love poetry or a wildly colorful comic book. And the feel of turning pages and noting the growing number of pages read gives us a certain satisfaction that cannot be felt through a plastic screen. In addition, we're more likely to finish reading a book. Unlike a computer or iPad, a book cannot be turned off and forgotten. It sits on the sofa or next to our bed, staring at us, waiting to be read. But perhaps the greatest drawback of screen reading is our inability to become truly immersed, free of interruptions and distractions. Let's face it, if we're reading on a smartphone or tablet, we're plugged into the internet. a seductive source of infinite distraction. As we attempt to read a serious news article, we are bombarded with clickbait. See how ugly these 15 stars have become. 19 shocking food facts that will make you never want to eat again. Or flooded with ads for nearly everything we have recently Googled. Hotels, indigestion, Paris, treadmills. As curious human beings, we are tempted by these distractions and cannot resist the click. Then one click turns to another as we tumble down the internet's rabbit hole of instantaneous information. Soon we find that we can barely make it through a full article, much less a book. Neuroscientists have studied what happens in our brains when we get interrupted while reading online. Every time we click on a teaser and discover something fun, quick, and distracting, dopamine floods our brains. Dopamine is a chemical that makes us feel good, so after a while we become addicted to being distracted. Dopamine is the same chemical that gets us addicted to everything from potato chips to opioids, and find it increasingly difficult to get through any kind of reading that requires more than 10 minutes of concentration. As a result, we literally train our brains to skim over what we read. This serious drawback of screen reading has profound implications, especially for those who need or want to concentrate. Screen reading may well erode our ability to focus and make us all weaker readers and thinkers. Interestingly, neuroscientists have also found that it actually takes less energy to focus on deep reading for an hour than it does to dart about from one topic to another, barely dipping below the surface of our concentration. The reason is that we deplete our dopamine when we constantly distract ourselves. Focused, slower reading, it turns out, actually leaves us less tired and better prepared to take on other tasks. Furthermore, the benefits of intentional focused reading are many. We learn, we expand our views, we relax, we are entertained, we think critically, we become more curious about the world we live in, we encounter new ideas, we build understanding and empathy. Plenty of people have discovered these benefits and far more. LeBron James, for example, has a pre-game ritual of sitting down quietly with a book and reading for up to an hour in the locker room. He truly believes that the benefits of reading leave him better prepared to take on other tasks, like winning NBA championships. Could LeBron have that same experience on the screen of a Kindle or an iPad? Perhaps he could, but more than likely the answer is no. While screen reading provides incredible convenience and accessibility, it downsides in terms of lowered reading, comprehension, and focus cannot be ignored. These drawbacks are invisible when we check our Facebook feed or allow ourselves to be distracted by clickbait on our laptop. Yet, they are real and worrisome. And the growth of popularity of digital reading devices in our culture means the cognitive damage will increase in the years to come and may be irreversible. A public that has grown accustomed to reading on screens is unlikely to abandon this technology and revert to the printed page. Follow this trajectory forward, and the future generations may one day be unable to comprehend printed articles like the one you've just read. Perhaps sustained concentration, reflection, the connection and synthesis of ideas, all products of closed reading, will be casualties too. This bleak prospect underscores the need to take action now. Fortunately, the antidote is clear. Unplug. And while you're at it, be sure to pick up a book. Your mind will thank you for it.
Please subscribe, like, and share.